Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Warwick Science's Filmed Practical on Year 7 Chemical Science, and this one is going to be on distillation and evaporation. Now, we use these two processes to separate soluble substances, so substances that dissolve into a liquid. Now, with evaporation, there's two sorts that we use. We use fast evaporation, where we can set it over a Bunsen burner, and then we have slow evaporation that we can just do with regular heat. With evaporation, we actually keep the solute, but we lose the solvent because that gets evaporated up into the air. With distillation, the advantage of that process is that we actually keep both the solute and the solvent. Now, what I've got here is I've got some sodium chloride, some basic salt solution that has been coloured blue just to be able to see it a bit more, and we use this thing, which is an evaporating dish. On top here of a Bunsen burner, we have a tripod, and you can use either a gauze mat or a clay triangle, and this is a clay triangle there. So what we'll do is place a little bit into there, okay, and I'm only going to use a very small amount. Then, of course, we need to set the Bunsen burner up, and we need to get that going. Okay, so again, we use the same basic technique as we have used before. Okay. Turn my gas on first. Oh. Okay, so we use the same basic technique as we have done in the past. Okay, and then we put it onto a blue flame. It's a little bit of a tricky one there. Now, the key to this, of course, is that you need to be able to watch what is going on with your solution, because it will bubble and spit very, very quickly, and you can actually sort of start to hear that now. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just raise this up a little bit so you can actually see what's going on. You can see it from there, so you can see it bubbling. It's getting quite aggressive, so I would take the heat away there for a little while, just let it settle down a small part, and then just place it back underneath. Unfortunately, it looks like our Bunsen has gone out. It's a bit of a tricky Bunsen. It's a very tricky Bunsen. Okay, so again, you can see that it's essentially bubbling all of the solvent away, which is in this case which is water, and hopefully what we get left with afterwards will be the leftover salt, and in this case it should be a little bit bluer due to the food colouring. So you can see now that it starts to work very quick, and then we have it there. Okay, so now I can turn that off. So you can see there that we've got some small crystals of salt there, okay? Very, very small. If we were to do slow evaporation, this is sort of what we get as a result, and this is some copper sulfate, okay? But it'll happen with any of the soluble substances. You end up with these very large crystals as opposed to the very small crystals, okay, because the water's coming out at a much slower rate than compared to this. Okay, so that's the process of evaporation. Okay, another way to separate soluble substances is to use this device here, and this is what we call distillation. Now, it's slightly different to evaporation, but it's got some of the same things in common. Obviously, we have a soluble solution here, that we evaporate off. The difference is we have this part here, which is called a Liebig condenser, and on the outside of that is a tube that runs through the middle, and on the outside we have water to cool it. So what we're in fact going to do is heat up and evaporate the soluble solution. It'll leave the solute behind in the flat or the round bottom flask, and then it'll send the gas down this condenser. It it will condense, which means it will cool and turn back into water, and it will drip down there. So we use this technique if we want to keep both the solute and the solvent. Okay, now as you can see there, it's basically starting to heat up, and what will happen is it will turn and start to boil the solution, and then what will happen down here at this end there is we'll have fresh water. Now what we need to do though is we need to have water running through it, because what the water does is the water cools the gas. So the water comes down from the tap, runs through this tube here, goes up and then out the tube at the back there. You can just see the back tube, and that helps in order to condense the water and to bring it down. So if we want to make pure water out of this water that's drinkable, we can use this particular technique. The other advantage is that we keep both the solute and the solvent. Okay, so again, I'll simply leave it, wait for it to do its job, and then hopefully we can see some of the gas some of the liquid that's being put out. You can start to see there that the water is just starting to boil. So hopefully that will be okay. So just get a little bit closer in there and see what's going on. Okay, so now you can start to see it. What you can hear there are boiling chips, and with boiling chips we basically use those. And here comes our first drop of water down the tube. So hopefully in a moment we'll see that water come out of the bottom of the condenser. And there it goes. Okay, so straight away we've got water. You notice the steam coming off because it's a bit hot, but now we have that nice steady supply of water. Okay, and that's a very easy way in order to get, just looking down there, a very easy way to get nice fresh water. Now you can do this a number of different ways. You can do it out in the bush if you simply dig a hole, put some salt water into a hole, a piece of plastic with a rock in it, and the water will evaporate off and then run down and collect in a cup underneath the rock. So there's a number of different techniques that we use to do this. So those are the two processes, one of evaporation and one of distillation, and then we use them to separate soluble substances. Thank you for accessing Warwick Science's Year 7 Chemical Science Film Practical, and have a nice day.